My name is Rob. I like to play games, and welcome to Precon Party. This is a new segment that we are looking to do here where we analyze and look over precons from a certain set to kind of give you a guide to whether or not this would be something you'd be interested in. I've gone ahead and I've selected precons that I feel are great for beginners, as well as want to give an in-depth look on those precons to kind of go over what the general play pattern is, what you can expect from it, and if depending on how this goes, maybe look at some upgrades and things of that nature. So without further ado, let's get into the first deck. All right, and so pulling up here, we do see that we have a Bloomburrow deck. This is going to be Bellow, Bard of the Brambles. Bellow is a 3-mana Gruul commander, one of anything red and a green for a 3/3 legendary raccoon bard. During your turn, each non-equipment artifact and each non-or enchantment you control with mana value 4 or greater is a 4/4 elemental creature in addition to its other types. It has indestructible, haste, and whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. Now, why would I pick Bellow here? Well, because Bellow is, well, quite simply, Bellow is a very strong and very straightforward commander, low mana cost, good stat line, and what he wants you to do is pretty straightforward. He wants you to play mana value 4 or greater artifacts and enchantments, and he wants to animate them and slam them into your opponent. That's really what he wants to do. There are a couple different ways you can go about this, either using artifacts strictly or using enchantment-based cards, or my personal favorite with this style is using vehicles. Yes, that's right. You can turn your non-crewed vehicles into 4/4s with indestructible and haste, and those vehicles typically will have some sort of ability on them that triggers when they attack, which, even though they weren't creatures because they're not crewed, Bellow makes them creatures. But let's take a look at the precon and see what it is the precon brings with it that can at least help you out with some strategies here. So I'm going to organize these by types because I think that's going to be the most beneficial for this deck in particular. I'm not going to go over the mana base. The land base can typically be upgraded quite significantly depending on the money, because there are certain things that, like Evolving Wilds, not necessarily a card that you need. Exotic Orchard, I'm not the biggest fan of, but I know a lot of people are. But also like Forgotten Cave, a basic tap land that cycles, not something I would really, work with, but for a introductory precon, I understand why they're going this route. So, what are some of the hits for Bellow here? So, we've got like Spine of Ishsa. Spine of Ishsa is a 7-mana artifact. When it enters the battlefield, destroy target permanent. Okay, cool, great value there. A little overcosted, but again, remember, Bellow's going to turn this into a 4/4 indestructible haste creature. So, not the worst here. And then, if it would be put into the graveyard from the battlefield, return it to your hand. So it's a repeatable effect, something that you can continuously use turn after turn once you get to the mid to late game. You are in green, so ramp is something that you can do, as well as the fact that Bellow does animate your heavier costed ramp pieces, so something to keep in mind. We've also got like the Rolling Hamsphere. This is one of those vehicles I was talking about. 7-mana 4/4, gets +1/+1 for each hamster you control, and when it attacks, create 3 1/1 red hamster creature tokens. Then it deals X damage to any target, where X is the number of hamsters you control. Again, great effect on there. Little overcosted, don't get me wrong, but honestly, this is one that if I were building Bellow or upgrading Bellow, I would probably look at keeping this one in here. I think it's a really good card. Bootlegger Stash. Lands you control have tap, create a treasure token. Honestly, this is one of the cards I would cut, but in this deck, as a precon, it does do its purpose quite well. It not only ramps you, but it can also be, a 4/4 attacker. Gilded Lotus, that's one of those mana rocks I was talking about that can turn into a creature. Same thing with Thran Dynamo, Hedron Archive. Those are all things that can be turned into creatures. Another vehicle here in Isika's Chariot. 4-mana 4/4, great, that's what we're looking for. Enters the battlefield, create 2/2 green cat creature tokens. Even better, we got some blockers. And then when it attacks, create a token that's a copy of target token you control. Makes more. Okay, cool. Not terrible. So this deck doesn't do a lot of the artifact strategy. It leans a little more heavily into the enchantment strategy. So it uses things like Warstorm Surge. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, it deals damage equal to its power to any target. Now, this only works... So if this is in play while Bellow is in play, whenever you play an enchantment, it is entering the battlefield as a 4/4 creature. So this should trigger based on my experience. So that's pretty nice there. Songbird's Invocation. Whenever you cast a spell from your hand, reveal the top X cards of your library, where X is that spell's mana value. You may cast a spell with mana value X or less from among cards revealed this way without paying its mana cost. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. Not a bad spell either. You're going to be casting enchantments. This gets you more. Prime Veil Bounty. This one just has a lot of effects that really accelerate your deck and game plan. Whenever you cast a creature, get a 3/3 beast creature token. Cool. We're playing Magic. We're going to be playing creatures. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, put 3+1/+1 counters on target creature you control. Cool. Making our stuff bigger. Always love that. And Landfall. Whenever a land you control enters the battlefield, gain 3 life. Overall, great card. A little overcosted in my opinion. But again, we're in green. Ramping's not the biggest deal. As well as the fact that Bellow can animate it and bring it out as a creature in the game as well. Unnatural Growth. Beginning of each combat, double the power and toughness of each creature you control until end turn. This is a great one. A lot of green pips, so this may be one you want to look at shying away from. But, you know, it does allow those 4/4s. They're now 8/8s. Seems pretty good with what we're trying to do. Thickest of the Thicket. When it enters, put X+1/+1 counters on target creature, where X is that creature's power. Beginning of your end step, draw 2 cards if you control the creature with the greatest power or tied for the greatest power. Again, just a great overall universal enchantment for you. You're going to get value out of this, and it's going to help you, you know, propel into the late game, as well as it is a 4/4 with Bellow in play. Reign of Riches. When it enters, create 2 treasure tokens. Cool. 5 mana enchantment that's actually, you know, only 3 because you're getting 2 mana back. Yes, it's temporary mana because the token, obviously treasure you have to sacrifice and it goes away. However, it does help with, you know, you're not tapping out. You still have mana up to play something later that turn if you have to. And then the first spell you cast each turn with turn that mana from a treasure was spent on to cast, it has Cascade. In this deck, I don't feel that this is a very strong card the way it's built because there's not a lot of treasure producers in my opinion. However, you could very well, you know, put in more treasure producers to help ramp this up and make it better. Gratuitous Violence. This is a great one. If a creature you control would deal damage to a permanent or a player, it deals double that damage instead. Again, a lot of red pips. However, you know, this includes your 4/4 creatures that or enchantments and artifacts that Bellow turns in. They now deal 8 damage. Great card for what you're trying to do. Berserker's Onslaught, same thing. Tagging creatures you control have double strike. So you can kind of see a theme here where the global enchantments are really nice because they have effects that work while you're attacking. And they're really good to help you with that. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, it explores. Cool. Outpost Siege. This one's great. It has card filtering as well as deals a little ping damage whenever your stuff is sent to the, or whenever creature you control leaves the battlefield. Yeah, so whenever you something you control dies, deals a little bit of chip damage. Typically you're going to play this for the first ability though, to be able to exile the top card of your library and then play that card. Greater Good, again, sack a creature, draw cards equal to the sacrifice creature's power, then discard 3. As long as whatever you're sacrificing has 4 or more power, you're good. This is great in a pinch when your opponents target something of yours and you're like, yep, I'm not going to let you, you know, kill that. I'm going to sack it off and draw a bunch of cards instead. Alchemist Talent. This is part of that treasure combo and small sub-theme here. When it enters, create 2 treasures. Treasures you control have tap, add 2 mana instead of just the 1. And then whenever you cast a spell, mana from a treasure was used to spend it. This class deals damage equal to that spell's mana value to each opponent. Another burn thing. Not necessarily what you're looking to do, but it does help. So some of the other cards and stuff in here, we'll go over the categories. You know, it's got a burn package. Grumgully the Generous. I don't mind this card. I don't think it fits really well in this deck because you're not really doing a +1/+1 counter theme, but it is a nice staple to have. I like Rampaging Baloths, but this is not a dedicated landfall deck. This would be something I would also be looking at cutting. Galt is just good. I mean, realistically, with Bellow out, Galta's going to come down really cheap. It's a big, 12/12 trampler. It's probably going to get removed, but, people have a soft spot for a big dino. Other cards to kind of look at. Lotus Cobra, this one's okay. Again, I don't think this deck has enough landfall payoffs and would be something I would be looking to cut, as well as Llanowar Loamscapers. I don't really like the second ability. I would rather run 1-mana mana dorks in this deck, like Llanowar Elves, Fandhorn Elves, what's the other one? Elvish Mystic. The typical mana dorks. So if you were looking to upgrade this, I would definitely look at some of the ramp package and modify that as well. But overall, I feel this deck is very strong for a beginner. I think this would be a great pickup if you can from Bloomburrow and you're looking into something a little bit off the beaten path that may not just be your typical Gruul play big creatures smash face. I mean, yeah, you're still kind of doing that. It's kind of Gruul's thing. You make big creatures and you smash face. But I do think Bellow is a good pick for something a little bit different. So with that, let's take a look at the second deck. All right, so the second deck that I picked from Bloomburrow here that I feel would be good for newer players, as well as I think it's just a solid precon, is Hazel of the Root Bloom. She is a 4-mana Golgari commander, so 2 of anything black and a green for a 3/5. Tap, pay 2 life. Tap X untap tokens you control, add X mana of any combination of colors. Cool. She, for 2 mana, you can ramp yourself pretty heavily. And then at the beginning of your end step, create a token that's a copy of target token you control. If that token is a squirrel, instead to create 2 tokens that are copies of it. So if you haven't figured it out now, this is a token-based strategy that's also kind of aristocrat style. It's meant to sacrifice tokens for value, swarm your opponent with a bunch of squirrels, and then just kind of overwhelm them with just the value train that Golgari provides. Now, my disappointment with this, it's not a lot of squirrels. I mean, let's take a look here. Yeah, 19 cards. One of them's a land. And yeah, there's some good ones here, but Cash Grab's not actually a squirrel. Sort of the Squeak's not a squirrel. Swarmyard Massacre's not a squirrel. Deep Forest Hermit makes squirrels. That's kind of cool. Rootcast Apprenticeship. The other Hazel. Squirrel Nest makes squirrels. Chitter Splitter. I mean, it's a artifact that makes squirrels. Okay. Chatterstorm makes squirrels. Nested Shambler makes squirrels, but for a squirrel themed deck, I don't think there's a whole lot of them in there, so that's definitely something I would look at upgrading with this deck if you wanted to. But again, the other big thing I'm seeing with this deck is there's not a lot of just sacrifice outlets to get yourself moving, to play into that aristocrat style in the deck. Don't get me wrong, the deck is very good at what it does, and I very much appreciate the pump effects with the Beastmaster's Ascension to make a whole bunch of squirrels to overrun your opponent. We've got End Raise Forerunners, enters the battlefield, other creatures you control get +2/+2 in Vigilance and Trample until end of turn. More or less poor man's Craterhoof Behemoth. Let's be honest. If you've ever played green, you know what Craterhoof Behemoth does, and it's a poor man's version of it. I'm not saying it's bad, but I would rather play Craterhoof Behemoth. There's a good amount of those aristocrat drain styles, Zulaport Cutthroat, Bastion of Remembrance, Nidhere's Nightblade, Poison Dipped Archer, and then even Ravenous Squirrel kind of does that as well, giving you a draw effect as well as the ability to whenever you sacrifice, it gets a +1/+1 counter. Well, that's in the draw pile, so it doesn't really work with what you're looking at there, but The removal suite, though, removal suite is pretty good. I like the removal suite in this deck a lot. Haywire Might, amazing. Terra Sunder, exile target artifact or enchantment. If the spell is kicked, exile target non-land permanent instead. Great. Maelstrom Pulse, insane. I absolutely love this card. It doesn't work too well in Commander, but I mean, it's not terrible. Plaguecrafter, absolutely great. Enters the battlefield, sack a creature or planeswalker. Each player who can't discards a card. Awesome. Putrefy, love it. Saw in Half, this is just a black staple. Honestly, would very much recommend that. Finding the Old Gods is pretty good. Skyfish Spider, I mean, there's a good amount of removal here. And then, of course, where this deck really shines is your token strategy. So we've got Chatterstorm, which is make a squirrel storm. If anybody knows about the storm scale, this card's insane with that. Obviously, the original Chatterfang, which is great. If one or more tokens would be created under your control, those tokens plus that many squirrels are created. Again, leaning into that. Squirrel Nest makes more squirrels. So there's a really good amount of token creation in this. Again, I'm not going to go over the land base. I don't think we need to. This one may require a little bit more work and a bit of a directional path to go with it, but overall I feel this is a very strong deck as it is. The ramp package is probably one of the weaker points in my opinion. Now squirrels are pretty cheap. As you can tell here, the mana curve is pretty good, but even at 3.3, this is a really weak ramp package. Gilded Goose is okay, but like you got Soul Ring, Arcane Signet, Golgari Signet, Talisman, and then you've got Prosperous Innkeeper, Tireless Provisioner, which is a landfall card, but you have none of the landfall search cards. You don't have your Farseeks, you don't have your Nature's Lore, or 3 Visits. Cultivate's not even in here. Kodama's Reach. The basic land ramp cards that we would expect to find in a green deck are surprisingly absent from this deck. So I think that would be probably one of the first upgrade places I would look at in this deck, is upgrading the ramp package specifically, and then kind of looking at which direction do you want to go. Do you want to swarm the field and then win using things like Beastmaster's Ascension to give all of your squirrels +5/+5, and then like Endray's Forerunners and Craterhoof Behemoth? That would be a really cool way to build this deck, overrun with squirrels. I think we've all seen that picture of Emrakul being attacked by 1,000 squirrels, and it's hilarious that squirrels are taking down this huge Eldrazi god. Or do you want to go more of the the aristocrat style, where you're using those tokens to sacrifice and drain your opponent for incremental value each and every turn? Both of those I think are great for this deck and would be the way to go, but honestly, it's a matter of your opinion and how you want to do that. So with that though, we are going to wrap up the first episode of the Precon party. I do hope you all enjoy it. If you want to see more of this content, please like, follow, subscribe, all that good stuff, as well as let me know in the comments, or you can always talk to me on the Jungle Games Entertainment Discord. I'm a pretty active member there. I always have it available to pop in. I may not respond right away because sometimes I do work, but I will get back to you as soon as I can. But with that, I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your week. And until next time, my name is Rob. I like to play games. And we'll see y'all later. Take care, everybody.